Is being an avoidant a personality disorder or a disease?
People hate people who are avoidantly attached. Women online just destroy avoidantly attached men. They demonize them. In essence, these men just never learn that anyone's ever going to care how they feel.
That's messed.
Anxious women, though, are going to dig frantically at you for approval, and when you don't open up the way they want, they start getting angry and resentful, and that's where the hate comes from.
Really?
Yes. I'm your host, Adam Lane Smith, and with me is my co-host, Andrey Korikov. Today, we're going to be covering a topic that I know is near and dear to your hearts. I've heard from you a million times on this topic today. I'd also like to say thank you to Rugged Legacy, our sponsor, who helped us take care of this episode. Andrey and I are both wearing Rugged Legacy today in anticipation of this very, very hard-hitting masculine episode today. Andrey, I'm excited for this one.
I'm excited too. How's your Rugged Legacy feeling?
Feels
What'd you
good.
use?
I use the Frontiersman, so it's the beard balm that
Ooh.
smooths it all down and makes it nice and coated so that I'm
Glorious.
comfortable. I know, thank you. It gives me a shine.
Okay, so what is this thing that your audience is so interested in? There's been a lot of conversations lately about this whole anxious avoidance thing. And, you and I talked about this a fair amount, but I'm honestly still having my doubt. Is that even like a real thing? Anxious avoidant, where does this even come from? What's the story there? And why does it even matter?
You're talking about the gigantic spike viral videos that I had on my YouTube channel not too long ago about how to love an avoidant man, where women came piling into the comments asking questions like, why should I step on eggshells to try to make him happy?
Look, man, women have been having issues with men for as long as women and men have existed, which is a long time.
True.
So how is this not a fad?
How is avoidant attachment itself not a fad?
So this conversation about anxious avoidant attachment, there's psychological fads that roll out throughout, the history of media. There's always something new. Sometimes it's attachment styles, other times it's personality types. That was a recent big one, right? The big personality type matches. There's a lot of this information rolling out. A lot of that information is junk. You are a specialist. You're a psychologist. You have your masters and all that stuff. So how do you know that attachment styles is the real deal? And why is it that specifically avoidant attachment gets so much flack? Because I've been seeing a lot of flack online about this.
People hate people who are avoidantly attached. Women online just destroy avoidantly attached men. They demonize them. I have a heck of a time when my male clients come in and they say, Adam, I think there's something not right with my relationships. And I say, well, you have this thing called avoidant attachment, but don't ever look it up because everybody online will talk about how you are a serial killer waiting to happen because you're horrible.
Right, but even there is like overblown, right? So somebody has avoidant attachment. Avoidant attachment, correct me if I'm wrong, is somebody basically being afraid of a connection, being guarded. Privacy. Privacy of feeling, privacy of emotion, privacy of thought. Why is it that it triggers such a hate response?
Now, that's definitely how they are going to talk about it right there. Avoidant men are going to say, I am just private. I am just practical. I am simply careful. It is a pragmatic approach where nobody is going to get in under your guard. Now, the problem is that healthy women will want to get in there and work with you and learn about you and love you, and avoidant attachment keeps them out. Anxious women, though, are going to dig frantically at you for approval, and when you don't open up the way they want, they start getting angry and resentful, and that's where the hate comes from, mostly online.
Okay, so what is it that you're seeing online? You had a whole bunch of these topics pop about avoidant attachment, the avoidant attachment dance, and the conflict between those two psychologies. What is it that is driving the most of the conversation, and what's the drama?
Let's even talk about what avoidant attachment is. So it is an evolutionary adaptation built into every single human, where we are capable of splitting off from other people and building a wall where we will not let anybody in. This is designed for disaster environments. Let's say the Danes have sailed up the coast, the Vikings, they've burned your village to the ground. You now have to survive alone in the woods, and people are going to try to hurt you or take from you. It is every advantage to make sure that you're not going to be emotional, open and intimate with others. You're going to be self-defending, private, closed off, not trusting. It makes sense in those environments. That's what it's designed for. It's not some personality disorder. It's a designed evolutionary adaptation to keep you safe. Now, our society and many elements in it are provoking that response in a large number of men.
So society is making men avoidant.
Correct.
Is what you're saying.
There's a lot of factors that are creating avoidance in men from childhood, yes.
Okay, what are those factors?
So those factors are things like parents who are constantly absent, so they don't give that man that love and connection that he thinks he's
Yeah,
gonna
but I'm
get.
sure, like, Vikings were absent a lot of the times. So if, dad's gone, raiding and making people avoidant, how do I not become avoidant myself then?
You would have had extended family networks. You would have had mom. You would have had other people that were there building that connection with you anyway. We don't have those extended family networks anymore, so people are afraid because they never get the fullness of connection that they're looking for. In essence, these men just never learn that anyone's ever going to care how they feel. Some of them grew up with families and parents who fought and screamed at each other, and they learned that even family doesn't give a rip about each other.
So these men grow up and they go into the world right now. And in the world right now, we have so many comforts, so many ways to make a connection. You have, digital media, you have social media, you have like networking events. We're arguably working less than we've ever worked in our past history. We're not working in the fields. Why is it that your avoidant attachment section of men is actually growing?
So when you connect with other people, you're supposed to get some primary brain chemicals. One of those is the bonding hormone oxytocin. We can measure this. We can look at this. We can see its effects. A lot of these men display symptoms of having very low oxytocin. So they don't display affection to others. They don't receive affection much from others. They are mostly focused on dopamine stimulation inside relationships. So they stimulate dopamine in others, but they also expect dopamine stimulation in themselves. And that's what our culture is heading to, is a dopamine binge all the time, excluding things like oxytocin bonding.
Okay, Adam, so let's talk about this avoidant attachment issue, because I see it on your social media all the time. It is a huge issue that people seem to have, and I don't understand why. Because I met a lot of men who I assume are avoidantly attached, and my personal assessment is not so bad. At least I don't have an issue with them. Is there maybe like something secret happening behind relationships that I don't see?
Avoidantly attached men can be some of the most loving and connected and engaged partners and fathers and friends in the world, but only when people approach them correctly. And most women who are with avoidant men are approaching them wrong.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, so what is the wrong way to approach an avoidant man?
Keep in mind that avoidant men are most focused on what's fair to them, and they are most focused on staying safe from getting trapped.
What do you mean trapped?
So they believe that if they go into a relationship where somebody has secret, unclear expectations and demands, the other people are eventually going to grow those demands and then overwhelm him and get him stuck in a relationship where he is giving and exhausted. Stuck.
Exhausted. How many people actually feel stuck and exhausted in a relationship based on what you've seen?
An overwhelming number of men. So the research shows that about at least 25% of men right now have avoidant attachment style. At least 1 in 4.
Okay, sure. But how is that not a boundary issue, right? Because here's the thing. If somebody is asking for you too much in a relationship and you give what you can, but you can't, give any more, why can't you just say, hey, love, I can't do this right now. This is what I can.
Now, wait a minute.
Why don't we go
a minute. Avoidant attachment is a boundary issue, but here's the difference. A boundary issue, as you're describing it, is we just have to talk about a boundary. Avoidantly attached men don't understand that you can even make boundaries or that other people will ever stick to them and be self-policing. They think it's an endless battle to have secret boundaries that won't make you uncomfortable, and they have to endlessly balance them out.
Okay, so this is the part I don't understand about why everybody's giving avoidant men a lot of flack. We have all of this information out there about how to become more masculine, how to take accountability for your life, be responsible, be a go-getter, separate yourself out from past trauma, and you go out and you really work hard on yourself. And in order to do that, you have to become independent, number one, right? You have to become masculine, number two, and you have to persevere and accomplish things that you set before yourself as a goal so that you can respect yourself and other people can respect yourself as well. So those three things are good things.
Sure.
However, for some reason now, when we're projecting them onto a relationship, you're saying that can actually cause damage and prevent you from bonding. I don't understand where that interacts.
Well, 2 key points there. Number one, yes, men are told that, and they're also told that they have to be their wife's perfect therapist.
Yeah, right.
They have to be her best friend. They have to paint their fingernails and toenails together.
that? Who tells them this? I want to know their names.
Go on any social media site and you're going to find all kinds of female creators doing this. Moms raise their sons this way. Many moms, insecure moms, raise their sons in this way with this overwhelming expectation that he has to caretake her needs. That's one thing that drives men avoidant.
Look, I love the idea of a man taking care of a woman's needs, but there's a stack of things you're supposed to do.
Correct.
Right? As a man, you're supposed to provide a number of foundational needs: security, safety, food, comfort. And it's really nice that you can be there to talk to somebody in a way that is, receiving and comforting. But if you're failing in those many other ways, you're actually going to probably cause more trauma than you are going to cause some form of comfort, right? So is there maybe a sequence we can talk about when it comes to the avoidant to like secure? I know we talk about a lot of avoidant to secure attachment. Is it always bad to start off with some avoidant tendencies and then maybe work your way up to secure? Is there like a ladder and a process we should be following?
Not at all. When I have coaching clients come into my practice who are more avoidantly attached, it's actually some of the easiest to fix because they have strength, they have independence,
right?
They have clarity of what they want typically. They just don't know what all their options are. So when they step in, they can be an executive in their company, they could be a business owner, they can be fantastic at work, but when they try to come home, they have a harder time connecting emotionally and nurturing that and feeding the people at home. Not caretaking, but feeding that emotional intimacy to build that bond. So I just teach them what's available to them. And they're shocked and stunned that that's even possible. Then I teach them how to make sure they're trusting the right person, because you have to be selective on who you open up to or they will overwhelm you. And a lot of the women who are with avoidant men and a lot of the women who blame avoidant men, not all of them, but many of them, are doing exactly the things that those avoidant men are afraid of.
Okay. So let me ask you this. And, we kind of argued in the from the perspective of avoidant men. I understand where they're coming from.
Sure.
Maybe I'm avoidant in some degrees. I'd love to hear your opinion on that because I've been your client for like 2 years. So you've seen some stuff, you know a few things that the average Joe doesn't, but, we'll keep my privacy somewhat protected.
Sure.
However, what is it that women see? Like, I have a daughter, I'm obviously trying to bring her up in a way that's going to be healthy for her. Maybe I'm going to screw up along the way. And let's say that if she was to grow up anxious, right, somehow, maybe I messed up, maybe I didn't do enough, whatever, like parenting's hard. So if she grows up anxious and she starts dating an avoidant man, what would be the triggers for her? What would be her side of the story? Because it's really important to understand. Sure, you guys can vilify each other all the time, but what is it that the woman sees if she's anxious that triggers that type of drama and the energy going into that conflict?
Yeah, I hear you. And I want to be clear. I don't have anything against anxiously attached women.
Do you have anything against anybody?
Not really.
Really?
Well,
come on.
Okay, people online who teach really bad dating advice, people who encourage people to exploit each other, red pill gurus who help men go from insecure to crushingly manipulative. Those, 100%. But anxiously attached women, I know I come across as being against them. I'm not. It's the women who demonize avoidant men that really is the problem for me. Anxiously attached women, though, who are experiencing pain, loneliness, frustration in their relationships with avoidant men. I am very much for them. And what I encourage them to do is fix the anxious attachment so that you accidentally stop chasing him away.
So this is weird for me, right? Okay, so let's say that we say it's not the woman's fault that she's anxiously attached. Probably even less so than the man's because, women tend to be more emotional.
It's nobody's fault. You didn't grow up wanting to be this way. It's an adaptation.
So if you're an anxiously attached woman or you're fearing you're kind of in an anxiously attached situation, it sounds to me like what you're suggesting is you kind of have to be the first person to change in the relationship and then lead the man. And that sounds backwards. It's not really what we teach. Is that what you're saying?
I am encouraging the women to be the ones who step forward for love and intimacy in a way that is not going to get your heart broken by a guy who isn't going to care about you. There's ways you have to layer this in carefully.
Okay.
So, number one, you need to check for the red flags of does he actually like you or not? Or is he just using you?
From a moral standpoint, why is it the woman that is chasing the man to try to get him to stay home? Why can't I just tell a man to just, man up, fix your attachment, be the guy and find the love you want? Have that relationship with a family, the girl of your dreams, and just make it happen and stop being a Why can't I say that?
If we go that route, and I've tried that route with some men before,
Okay.
when early on in my practice, 10, 12 years ago, when I barely knew what I was doing way back then, 10, 12 years ago, I tried telling men, just step up, just meet her needs. And that was exactly what had caused their attachment issues in the first place.
Just somebody asked them to meet some needs.
No, somebody forcing them to caretake other people without getting any of their own needs met. An anxiously attached mom, for example, who demands that he caretake her feelings, and he has to cater himself to her feelings to feel safe in childhood. Now he will not do that in adulthood.
That sounds like some Freudian stuff. My mom did this, and then I have these mommy issues.
But we have to learn our patterns from somewhere, right? We don't just not develop patterns. They don't just develop out of nowhere. They develop because we get hurt. We learn through pain. He has learned his behavior through pain and through lack of real bonding and intimacy and oxytocin, vasopressin, all of those hormones that they need. So
you're saying that avoidant men cannot step forward because they simply can't. So it's up to the girl to go and kind of...
Avoidant men cannot step forward because they do not have the brain chemistry to even tell them it's possible to build a more intimate relationship than they have right now.
So if I'm avoidant, my brain doesn't work. Like I'm brain damaged.
You are not receiving the bonding hormones that you need in correct amount. It will not even occur to you that you can. This is the research on oxytocin.
That's a mess.
If you do not have oxytocin in your system, you will not display it and start growing it. You won't
Can
even
they measure oxytocin? They can actually measure it?
There's a fantastic, a fantastic piece of research that came out not long ago. They took a bunch of fathers and they put them in a room with their newborns, and they measured those fathers who, all of them, did they hug their child, talk to their child, discuss, kiss their child, any of those behaviors, those what we call spontaneous displays of affection.
Sure.
And they looked at that and measured it. Then they went through and took pure oxytocin. They have this.
Okay.
And just up their nose like nose spray. Okay.
Ew.
Yes, it's gross. But then they sat there and they looked and measured those fathers again. Which ones were affectionate? Which ones were intimacy? All of the ratings went way up. The fathers were way more engaged, way more intimate, way more bonded, even all of them in the oxytocin group.
Okay, two things come to mind. Why can't we just take that nose spray and ship it to every anxious avoidant couple out there?
Sure.
And the woman just catches the man and just shoves it up his nose.
Yeah, just forcibly, by force.
Yeah, just
and that's
force.
exactly what the avoidant men are waiting for, by the way, is for a woman to jump out with a syringe and ram it into his neck is what they're kind of waiting for.
We could add that to your product list. The avoidance syringe.
Right? The oxytocin syringe, the love syringe.
The love syringe.
Right into the neck. No. Two problems with that. Number one, the ethics of it. And number two, just because you get oxytocin, you could just be sitting there feeling weird. You need to build it in association with the person and train them that it's safe to feel it. So there's perfectly natural ways of building a oxytocin bond with a man. You just need to set the foundation first where he's safe, and then you need to show him what you want from him. His brain chemistry will take over and make him want to bond with you.
Woman making men feel safe. What on earth has society gone to?
I know.
What is this, Adam?
Safe from getting exploited. I mean, look at all the problems. Safe from divorce, safe from financial destruction, safe from reputation destruction, safe from alienating him from his children, safe from destroying his life.
Man, it sounds like a lot of hand-holding for dudes. Like I'm kind of like, I'm trying to play both sides because I do want to understand both perspectives. And, I do want to come back to this experience that the anxious woman is supposed to experience working with an avoidant man. I am still lapsing on the fact.
Sure.
Lapsing. Thank you. I'm still lapsing on the fact that the woman has to go in and fix the men. Like it is just, it's not what you expect. It's not what you expect.
The essence of the feminine is about healing. It's about nurturing and caring. Now, she's not supposed to go in and fix him like he's her son. That's the absolute opposite.
Creepy.
Oh, yeah, that would be creepy. But walking to him and saying, you are in survival mode and you are taking care of our family and you are strong and you're independent and I respect that. At the same time, I would like to help you do more than survive. I would like to show you how to win together, how to love together, how to thrive together as a family. That's what this is. Yes, it's an amazing survival adaptation to keep you alive. Yes, it is the core essence of masculinity preserved, but there is also more that can come further. When a population's obliterated, and it has to rebuild. You don't want them to just be surviving for 500 years. You want them to reach a point where they begin thriving. Culture grows. Family bonds are renewed, right? Villages connect and create towns and create all kinds of structures. That's the oxytocin effect. Rome was built this way. The Rome model, right? I'm going back to Mary Beard and her work, Rome, Empire Without Limits.
Right.
And she discussed the origins of Rome was all these outcast men pulled from nowhere. Outcasts nobody else wanted. More avoidant men, low oxytocin, wandering the wilderness. They pulled them in. And they built a village together. They built a whole society together, these men, building trust, connection, and then they pulled in women from elsewhere to then build families.
It was like a brotherhood first. They
It was
kind
a
of built
brotherhood first, and then they pulled in women from other areas to start creating families. But then they had to learn how to actually have a healthy, thriving family in a structure that worked together, so it wasn't this hyper-independent country that would fall apart.
So let's dig into this a little bit more. We've talked about this in our coaching sessions, but also I've seen this play out again and again.
Oh, yeah.
And the concept is that men build structures and women fill them.
Correct.
So can you tell me a little bit more about that concept?
Yes, men build what we need to survive.
Okay.
Women come in and show us how to do more than simply survive, right? The women come in and show us how to thrive, how to help the children advance. This is why when so many avoidant and anxious couples come in, the woman is okay in the relationship for the first 5 years, maybe more, but once they have children, her hormones shift, and she starts wanting the best for those children. So then she starts looking at their behaviors, feeling rejected by dad, not having the bonding that they need with him. Their behaviors go off. She shifts and becomes resentful toward him, and he has no idea what's happened. He's an avoidant man, ethical, kind, considerate, taking care of his family. Now he gets blindsided by her resentment, and so it creates this big rift between them and the children, and it's all because she switches from anxious to anxious and avoidant at the same time.
Anxious and avoidant at the same time. That sounds traumatizing.
It's pretty horrible.
Pretty awful.
Pretty awful. And that's what a lot of avoidant men need to realize is very likely to happen unless you learn this balanced approach. When avoidant men learn this balanced emotional intimacy, not only does their brain chemistry improve, so your oxytocin goes up, that releases more GABA in your brain. So it actually suppresses cortisol, makes you more resilient against stress. It makes you more performative under pressure. It helps you do better at your work. It shifts you from lone wolf survival mode to we are going to thrive together as a community mode. That's the real oxytocin GABA connection right there.
Okay, so right now, one of the big challenges that men experience is that we're very disconnected from each other.
Very
Like,
silent,
I only have maybe 4 close friends, and they're scattered across the world. Like,
Correct.
I don't see them all together in one room ever. I've never seen them together in one room. I've known them for years. Is that maybe part of the problem? That avoidant men, you said Rome was kind of initially a brotherhood, this banding together, and then they're starting to bond through things like vasopressin, they're starting to bond through things like accomplishing things together, and that creates a framework of safety that then after that they can bring a woman into and feel that safety actually play out.
Absolutely. So that's why Rome didn't just stay a little pocket village that kept trying to pull in more and more outcasts for every generation.
But we don't have that because we got rid of that. Like the masculine friendship model is annihilated.
Correct.
You cannot be friends nowadays.
Lone wolf survival mode has clicked on for a gigantic portion, arguably a huge portion of men is that. Maybe even half of men are facing this right now.
Bring back the Boy Scouts.
Well, there's a number of things. The Boy Scouts failed for a specific reason, which is that they drove away from their mission. It wasn't getting men bonded correctly anymore.
I guess more like bring back like the cadets, like bring back like things that are a little bit more...
Bring back the models of male friendship that we used to have,
like
right?
whom?
One of the most recent ones that people talk about all the time is Lord of the Rings. Incredible examination of male friendships. Now, our culture, especially in America, we tend to sexualize everything.
Yeah.
And J.R.R. Tolkien's friend, C.S. Lewis, talked about how he pities people who can't understand friendship without sexual components, but true, loving, platonic friendship.
Oh, that's confusing to me.
Yeah,
How can we have male... So in a largely heterosexual society, how can we have male friendship sexualized to such an extent that it's actually ruining male friendships?
Have
Because
you
it doesn't
been
work.
on the internet lately?
Well, yes, However, I stay away from apparently those parts. And
Okay.
can you wonder why?
Well, absolutely. So it's this whole push for the last 30 arguably years, maybe more, of making jokes if men get too close. Oh, they're homosexual, right? And this started in the time when it was really bad to be homosexual, and a lot of men moved away from that and didn't want to make those connections. But now it's this continuous push that every male friendship you see on any sorts of media, instantly it comes out of, oh, it must be homosexual. Oh, it must be sexual. There must be this or that. There's a tremendous push. So it's harder and harder for male media to exist, which really explores the depth and love in platonic male friendship. It's much harder to do that nowadays.
Okay, that makes sense.
Even looking at Lord of the Rings, endless jokes about how Frodo and Sam must be gay for each other. So a lot of men, they now have lost that connection. And I'm not making an argument for or against any sort of ideas here. What I'm simply saying is we have lost the celebration of true male friendship as it helps us build deeper bonds that help us both mutually succeed. And by doing that, what's fascinating is men have more receptors for the hormone vasopressin. Vasopressin is a backdoor bonding that is not blocked by avoidant attachment, whereas oxytocin is.
Okay. Interesting. So there's like a sequence happening here. It
Oh, yeah.
sounds like if you want to fix avoidant attachment, then you have to understand the brain chemistry, and there is a step-by-step process you have to follow in order to create the brain chemistry that is capable of learning what attachment love is like.
Absolutely.
So it's like the antidote, like the biological antidote to societal destruction. Kind of like that, yes?
And individual loneliness.
Individual
for men
loneliness.
and women. Avoidantly attached men are overwhelmingly lonely, but they also really lack the framework to understand what not being lonely anymore would feel like. They know something's missing, but they've never experienced what is missing, so they don't know how to build it.
So let's go back to a little bit earlier in the conversation. We said, what is an anxiously attached woman in an avoidant relationship feeling? So now we're basically saying she's being provided for. She's probably admiring some aspects of her man. However, she now has to step forward in order to teach that man some aspects of love that are simply beyond his ability to understand or even imagine, which is why he's not getting that. Like, he'd love to get it, but he doesn't know even that it exists. And he's just kind of sitting at home. We're having a little bit of like a quest situation where you're, in like an epic heroic tale where you're just, you're sitting there, you don't have a calling, you don't have a mission, you don't have a quest. And then all of a sudden this woman shows up and she gives you this inspiration. You say, I'm going to, jump onto my sail ship and pursue the dream of secure love. Something like that?
Yes, exactly.
Nice.
Like no.
Clip that.
Here's what you do instead is women who are in love. In all my experience, being married, being a marriage therapist for many years, now coaching couples, all my years in training, women in love crave to be useful to that man that they love, to support him, to enhance him, to grow something with him, to build a legacy, a family together. They crave this connection. But to make that work, they need to know that they will not be cast aside. They need to know that they have value to him.
So it's a fear of abandonment we're talking about.
For anxiously attached women, it is, but we keep going back to this idea in our culture of what value does a woman bring to the table. The argument that a lot of avoidant men have brought is they only bring sexual value. They only bring, she has to be a virgin. She has to be 18 years old. She has to blah, blah, blah. But the value that a woman brings in the length of a relationship is tremendously different. She will only, arguably, have value long-term in a relationship as he allows himself to open up to her and let her see those needs he has.
Yeah, but that's a fundamentally limiting belief, right? And this is a fundamentally limiting belief because if you even take a look from the perspective of the way that brain chemistry works, I'll take the perspective of business, right? The perspective of business is that, yes, you have to have a very heavy logical side to yourself, but you also have to have an emotional component so you can learn how to maintain partnerships, train teams, build relationships, inspire people. globally, right?
Sure.
And in order for you to see people as something that's more than simply a combination of parameters, factors, resources, inputs and outputs, you actually have to understand this deeper component.
So
right?
that's where a lot of my coaching clients come into me. My male coaching clients, high performers, C-suite executives, massive business owners with $100 million a year kind of businesses, and the skills that they've learned, the mindset, that avoidance, it helps them rise through the ranks. It helps you become powerful. But once you get there, you don't have any of the brain chemistry or the skill set needed to maintain those relationships.
Right.
You're great at going up. You're not great at that level. So a lot of my guys, they flame out, they burn out, they struggle, they eventually get laid off,
like
health issues,
Yep.
because they can't relate to their team. They don't know how to maintain that ongoing connection with the other executives. It's maintaining those relationships that they can't do. And they end up getting closed out by other people who have the skill set. And that's really where a loving wife at home can help that man understand how to build those lasting bonds even with his team at work and become a better executive from maintaining.
Right. Well, it's interesting because even for me, that's exactly what I'm experiencing. Because, as you know, I just, recently started a relationship going fantastically, amazing girl. And one of the things that we talked about at the beginning was how we're going to build secure attachment and what we're actually going to do. And I told her one thing. I said, men can do a lot. We can operate in many different ways, but we run on a fuel that's called love. We can run on fumes. I've, been a single dad for a while and whatnot, so I get what I can for my daughter. It's not the same, obviously, but it's something. It's like sniffing that. You see the syringe and you get to like sniff the side of it, of the oxytocin syringe, and that's kind of like the thing you get for the next like 2 months, right? And the idea is that if a man can be fueled by authentic love, his capacity goes out. So recently, when we started spending more time together and actually started getting the physical connection, and you've watched me through the change because it's so recent, I'm even now feeling these connections start forming, and like just the depth of relationships, the fluidity of conversations, the understanding of emotionality is springing on me, and it's really interesting. But at the same time, my time organization, like I could before tell you what time it was to the minute. Like my life was timed as an executive, as a business owner and a founder. My life was timed by 5-minute increments. My showers were 3.5 minutes long, specifically for a reason. And as soon as this started happening, I started getting, I guess, with like oxytocin, serotonin, and it's kind of going to my brain. Dude, I like lapsed on 2 hours the other night. Like I come home, one thing after another, and then I look at it, it's like it's 10 o'clock. I go, I got a podcast to shoot tomorrow. So this is why you're getting notes from me at like 11:45.
Isn't that funny? And I've got a wife and 5 kids, and they're piled on me all the time. So I just have an oxytocin like machine pumping into me.
Oh my God, how do you work, man?
I know. And I've got a couple of my close friends are very avoidant men, and they're like, where are you? Where's the efficiency? And I'm like, where are you, Adam? I got 6 people pumping me full of oxytocin, like just in the neck.
And a dog, but the dog is weird.
And a dog. He's a weird dog.
He was a weird dog.
This is why I'm curious about this conversation, because as I've known you for a long time, and you've had fairly low oxytocin, so you've been very functionally avoidant.
So you claim.
So I claim. You've demonstrated fairly low oxytocin, and high efficiency, high, amazing. You're an amazing person.
Oh, thank you.
But low oxytocin and in that function. So I know.
Touchy-feely nonsense.
So this conversation's fascinating because I'm seeing you flip back and forth from your avoidant behaviors before.
Sorry, what?
Into more of the oxytocin behaviors.
Are you
now
diagnosing me on a call?
I am.
Wow. Did you hear that?
So
read this. Well, look at the camera. Look at our audience dead in the eye and diagnose me right now.
Andrey has exhibited a lot of avoidant behaviors, but now he's so happy while he's in love. So, all right. Talk to me about what you just talked about, though, a little bit. You said, I used to time my minutes.
First, you're going to explain yourself a little bit more. What are these avoidant behaviors I've been exhibiting? I'm giving you permission to reveal the client confidentiality, something paperwork. Like, make it PG. But, glimpse the audience into a little bit of what we've experienced.
So number one, being in the constant cortisol pathways, right? Constant
normal
cortisol.
person words, not scientist words.
Sure.
Normal person
Stressed
words.
out all the time before.
Just because my eye twitched doesn't mean I was stressed.
Constant levels
What
of stress.
the hell?
And not a bad person, but constant levels of stress. You couldn't come down, right? It was a high level of stress. You could come down to here, but you couldn't really shift down into the lower levels of stress.
That's
fully
stuff to
immerse.
do, man.
I know.
Good places to be.
Again, avoidant attachment, guys will say everything because it's all they know.
Am I avoidant? Is this really it? Is this finally coming out? I always thought I had an anxious attachment style, but maybe I'm avoidant. Is that how it is?
What if you're both?
Get out.
We'll talk about that later.
Oh my God.
I'll send you a bill.
What?
But that high level of stress where you can never come down. But then the dopamine was the thing that helped you relax a little bit, right? So at the end of the day, you'd have to pump yourself full of dopamine, come down. Then you go right back up in the morning.
I need my Celsius.
Cram the caffeine as hard as possible. That's helping right there. But that's the process is you only come down a little bit from the dopamine, but you're always at high level of survival because your brain says, I'm always riding the edge of not surviving. I have to take care of my child so they will survive. Pulling down a little bit and building that oxytocin pathway, having a loving woman in your life, says, my child is surviving. How do I help my child thrive? That's that deeper connection. It's not clicking out of survival and saying, screw it. It's how do I help the people around me thrive so that they are better than I am? They have better than I get, right? That's the connection.
So is the idea, and correct me if I'm wrong, of building serotonin and oxytocin, understanding the concept, maybe not of just survival and contention.
Sure.
Contentment?
Contentment.
Contentment.
Contentment is a combination of serotonin, which is gathered through good conversation, calm state.
Working out. That helps a lot.
Working out, but it helps. But we get most of it as humans through good conversation, through relaxing enough to really fully connect. So happiness, you're rolling your eyes, but happiness is a combination of serotonin and oxytocin gained through fulfilling relationships. That's what happiness really is.
When we started working together, we really did a lot of coaching. So for anybody who doesn't know, I coach content creators. We produce content creators.
You coach me, I coach you right
That's
back.
right.
Yeah.
I'll send you a bill for this one too.
Cool.
So during our coaching, I was very specific with you. And I said, you need to use terms that are understandable for people. And I guess now reflecting on that, I can say, okay, I don't understand the concept of fulfilling relationships. Like, for example, when we started coaching, and a large component of our coaching has also been religious, right? Because you helped me with my Christianity conversion, all of that. Sure. And I told you at the very beginning, using words I do not understand, right? The same thing also applies here in relationships. You're saying a fulfilling relationship. The other day I came into you, not too long ago, I said, I never want you to use the word connection ever again because Wi-Fi connects, people do not. It's a Veritas quote now. So what's happening here?
Yeah, fair. A lot of avoidant men come to me and they say, Adam, I'm not miserable, but I'm realizing I've never felt happy. Right?
Okay.
I've survived. I've done things that made me feel like I live in a fortress, but it's a cold fortress. I have a life.
Very solemn.
Yeah, it's solemn.
Very organized.
And I do things that feel good, but I don't do things that make me happy.
Oh.
Pleasure versus happiness. That's two different things, right? Pleasure is in the moment, and then it fades quick. You got to find another piece. Happiness is more long-term, more lasting, more enduring. It's something you can look at and feel good about afterwards.
Are you happy, Adam?
I am.
You are?
Yeah.
Weird.
I have a wonderful family. Of course I'm happy. I have good friends. I have things that aren't based on short-term stimulation. Serotonin can come from wonderful memories. It can come from sitting and just remembering a great conversation, remembering a good moment with somebody. You can release serotonin. So not only is the event helping you at the time, if you sit with your loving girlfriend, right? And you have a good evening together and you enjoy the time together. The memory of that time later, you can dredge up while you're sitting in your office having a difficult day and give yourself an additional shot of serotonin from the memory of it. You can do that during a difficult meeting. You can take a pause and go do that. The memory of it continues to fulfill you and continues to make you happy later on.
It's like basically you become like a love camel, and like, you get your fill and you go off into the desert, and you need to kind of like seep it out of your body just so you can push further.
You know that feeling when you're stressed out and you say, dang, I'm vibrating in place, I'm tapping my foot, I'm all anxious, I'm having a hard time focusing because I'm so stressed, I wish I could just come down. You know that feeling? That feeling is looking for that brain chemistry, that serotonin. It levels you out. It allows you to really come down. Not like to where you're just asleep and can't work, but you can come down to a much more productive state and stay there.
So it's kind of like taking off the top, where you're not just so hyper-focused that everything is like hyper-calculated, but you're missing out the human component. But you're also not in the pits of despair. You're kind of always getting leveled out a little bit and sustainably. Right?
I tell my avoidant male clients this. Look, we're not going to kill that edge that allowed you to rise. We're not going to make you less.
I like the edge.
What we're going to do is give you more options so that when you need to bring it down, you can. When you need to get a good rest at night, you can. When you want to pause and immerse into a moment, you can.
It's really interesting because one thing that I've noticed too is that, obviously now that we're spending a bit more time together, my sleep changed.
Oh, yeah.
And even though I get the same amount of sleep or less, I actually get much more restful sleep, but it is also much more like, I guess I get like dreams, like I'm more conscious. I don't know. It's really weird.
I know you roll your eyes. You roll your eyes at the brain chemistry, but that is brain chemistry. I know. So that's the
upload
oxytocin.
Me into a computer
when you get the oxytocin that avoidant men don't get, when you get that oxytocin, it releases GABA.
That's what it is.
Well, GABA in turn helps you release natural melatonin. So you don't have to pop melatonins every night trying to go to sleep at night. You get natural, healthy melatonin.
Interesting.
You know how do you also have less muscle cramps now than you used to?
Oh yeah, they're gone.
I
thought it was my magnesium
and the eye twitches, right?
My eye twitch is gone.
It's gone.
Nice.
It has been. So here's what's funny is when you have low oxytocin and low GABA, you use way more magnesium trying to relax your muscles. When you have higher oxytocin and higher GABA, it's much more efficient at using magnesium to calm your whole body. So all those muscle aches, all those twitches, all that stress, it gets so much easier with less magnesium.
Just for the sake of the audience, the eye twitches is a little bit of an inside joke. When give them the 30-second version.
It's not that much of a joke.
It was pretty funny to me.
When I first met you, right? You walked up, you shook my hand, your eye was twitching, and you said, "Get in my car." And I'm like, "Really?" As your eye is twitching, and we're driving down the road, as your head wasn't just twitching, like your head was twitching. And I was like, "Are you okay?" And you're like, "Yeah, it's just dry. It's just really dry." And you're whole like spasming as you're driving. And as you settled in with my family and they gave you lots of hugs, the eye twitch got a little bit better. So I'm not surprised to hear now that your eye twitch has gone away because your brain chemistry is working.
Well,
better.
I'm glad you got in that car with a twitchy stranger.
What
were you thinking?
That was confusing. I almost Ubered home because it was twitchy. But that is the difference. You haven't become less efficient. You're getting better sleep with the same amount of sleep.
Interesting.
You're resting better. Your body's better. Everything's better.
Okay, so as this conversation continues, now I can kind of understand why it's necessary for for a woman to come into your life. If you're religious, to believe that God will send you a woman into your life and to fix your nonsense.
Well, let me talk on that really quick. So there's this whole heated, angry, debate online, right? What is a woman's value? What does she bring to the table? Right? You see all everywhere. They interview people on the
comfortable,
corner.
Relaxing sleep.
I mean, and that's
amongst other things.
Comfortable, relaxing sleep, better productivity in your meetings, the ability to come down and be calm, the ability to form great memories that will sustain you, right? A man can run on fumes, but you'll die at 40. You'll die at 50. The research shows that when you
live and not well.
Well, but the research shows when a man is in a healthy, loving marriage, his life expectancy goes way up and the quality of his life goes way up. So what does a woman bring to the table? Well, if you open up to her and she's a healthy woman, a bonded, capable woman who's not going to smother you with crying, when she's a strong, loving woman, secure, what we would call securely attached, she can bring incredible richness and value to your life. That's the real value of a woman in your life, is that love that she brings and the quality of life that improves.
this somehow turned into an attachment counseling session.
Well,
I don't hate it. I'm kind of curious what everybody thinks. Please leave us a comment below, because I'm very curious about, like, you've seen my experience. I'm trying to, be open about sharing that. And, my first, question was, why the hell is a woman supposed to step up and, and do this? And reflecting on my own experience, I kind of see the transformation that even happened in my own brain as, like, did I imagine this was possible? Yes. That is why I seeked it out. That is why I pursued it. We did a lot of great work together, because if this work didn't happen for the last 2 years, would I have walked past that opportunity? Most likely, yes. Most likely that would have been something that didn't really catch the significance of the potential for this type of relationship.
Right.
And I wouldn't have jumped on it as much as I've done. And I wouldn't have put in this much effort, because it was said, is it worth the effort? Is it this? Knowing what I've known from our attachment coaching and all the counseling, all the work we've done together, I can actually see the connection. So I actually must say, if you are an avoidant man, then learning about this is going to be of exceptional importance to you. Not because you have any obligation to act right now. It's so that when you choose to act, you have a game plan and you know what to do. Otherwise, you will simply walk past an opportunity you've never seen. It's like learning finance for your brain health.
There we go.
And fitness. And also other things.
That's really what it comes down to is, right, the avoidant man, you're not going to, like, destroy your life. You're not going to end up on drugs and miserable. We're not fear-mongering here, but if an avoidant man connects with a loving, wonderful, warm woman who then says, hey, I want you to open up to me. I want you to share your feelings with me. I'd love to hear about your needs so that I can help you.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't like talking
he's
about
going
my
to say,
needs.
he's going to look at her and he's going to dive out the window and escape and, like, steal a car, drive down the street to get away from these feelings, because there's no point. And now it's somebody trying to drag it out of him for no reason except maybe to use it against him. But when you sit, and hopefully avoidant men, if you're watching this, as you're learning, this is about augmenting your life. It's about taking you from, okay, I have survived and built, but what do I do now? It's that fulfillment, happiness, quality of life goes up so high. Andre, how do you get your hair to stay like that when we're filming?
There's a Rugged Legacy pomade that I really like. And the best part about it is it comes on clear. So that it doesn't appear in the shoots, but it also is not sticky and it's not oily. So I really enjoy that part. I've been using this for all our shoots.
One problem I've had with pomades in the past is that, they get so greasy it makes your hair clump up really bad.
Yeah. This one doesn't do it. The composition is very clean and it does not cause me skin issues, because there's nothing worse than an itchy scalp in the middle of a shoot. I can tell you that much. So Rugged Legacy pomade for the hair, fantastic. I actually also really like their shaving butter, because I don't need to use aftershave, and it gives me this nice clean skin look. Much easier than anything I've ever done before.
The only bad thing about Rugged Legacy products is that my wife steals them, because the beard balm is so soothing that when she shaves her legs, she's like takes all of it to cover the legs. So she said it's the best aftershave she's ever used in her life. So I go through all kinds of Rugged Legacy that fast.
Well, you just keep buying, Adam. It's okay. We'll send you free samples.
There's 2 right there.
There you go. So if you're an anxious woman listening to this, you've now had a little deep dive into the world of avoidant men.
You know what I'm going to do? Is all the anxious women ask me, Adam, what can I show you that would help my avoidant man? What can I show him that would make him not run away from me and would actually learn about what would be helpful? We could show him this episode.
On an airplane.
Show him this
so
on
they
an
have
airplane.
nowhere to run.
Correct. Get the syringe in his neck and then on the airplane.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
But no, this is a great conversation for why should he care? Go ahead.
It's a great conversation for why should he care, but if we're actually looking to fix the avoidant man issue, what we're actually trying to understand is who has to take the first step and why. Yeah. So this makes sense to me, right? It makes sense because an avoidant man must learn what is happening in his brain, right? Okay, look, I get you're stressed out. There was a point in my life when I could not be avoidant, right? Where I had to be avoidant in order to go through the things that needed to be built. And I actually had a recognition of that. I had to understand that this is necessary. And I was even reflecting on that. And I said, this is going to be a very crappy several years. And they were difficult. However, being aware of the fact that this is a temporary thing, you're not going to be in the woods alone, like, running with a wolf pack forever. Knowing that there is a possibility for change is very important, so that when the time comes and you're ready to provide and you've completed your obligations and you've trained your body, you've trained your mind, you've trained your soul, you've purified yourself, and you do get exposed to an opportunity, you know what to do. And that sounds like that is the obligation.
Yeah.
Now, for the woman, the obligation then is to understand the male psyche, but also have this undoubtable and unbreakable faith in the fact that love is possible, that this can happen. Is that correct?
Yeah. The reason that I say it has to start with a woman is because his radar is tuned to what is going to help me survive or what's going to make it harder to survive.
Okay.
And so love makes, on the surface, makes it sound like it will be harder to survive.
Why?
Because men roll their eyes at, okay, I have to waste my time talking about feelings. Now you know how I feel. Past people in my life have used that against me. It's just going to cause problems. It's completely pointless. This serves no purpose, and I will never be happy anyway. So if you come at them demanding that they open up to you, demanding this, pushing this, grinding on this endless, we have to feel, then he will treat it like a threat. And that's what most anxious women accidentally do, is provoke his threat detection. That's why it has to come from the woman first, because he will think you're threatening him. So if you can stop the threat response, he can stop and listen to you, because he'll have the time to do that. He won't have to run away and jump out the window.
So what's the proper process then to not come in and just be like, you will marry me and supply every need I have, and nobody cares that you need to go to the gym and make, an impactful life for yourself, that you have a purpose you need to live. So what is the right process, the mechanism? Like, let's talk specifics. Like, what do you need to do in order to avoid setting off that response while still persevering enough for the man to notice and pay attention and choose to pursue that relationship?
One interesting piece about all of this is that you have beautifully modeled during this conversation how an avoidant man is probably going to hear feelings, emotions, bonding, intimacy, right?
I am what I am.
You have started off rolling your eyes and saying, this is dumb, I don't want to deal with this. And then you've now gone into, okay, so maybe there's some value here. What does it mean for me? How will this help me be a better man, a better father, better businessman? And that's exactly how we are supposed to build our romantic relationships. Dating is not supposed to be feelings like it is today, where you lead with sex, you lead in with making each other feel good, and then you decide if there's anything here. And if so, how will we fit together? Dating is supposed to lead into, how is this going to enhance both of our lives? What are we going to create together? Right? It doesn't have to be, we will have 10 babies starting tomorrow.
That was such a big thing for me, too, because we started with a lot of conversations around what we're going to accomplish together with my girlfriend and I. Like, what is the vision? Why are we talking? Why are we spending time? What is it that we're craving? And that resolved so much of my caution. And I'm not going to say, anxiety, because it was more like, it's like, hey, is this the smartest and most responsible way for us to spend our time? So are you saying that you're supposed to have conversations about, what is this vision? You got big words.
You're an interesting test case. So you have a current girlfriend that you have had good, solid conversations about building a life together early on in the relationship, and you found that the stress level is lower, and it's helping you overcome some avoidant resistance. Have you been previously married?
Yes.
Okay. Did you start off with conversations about shared purpose and building low stress together, or did you start off with feelings?
No.
So the stress was higher throughout the course of the relationship?
Yes.
Expectations were unclear?
Yes.
That is exactly what happens with avoidant men, and usually sometimes with anxious women paired up, is expectations are unclear, so stress is always high. And you have to make it feel better with pleasure, short-term pleasure, because everybody's afraid to talk about clear expectations. So exactly the recipe for fixing this is helping avoidant men have those clear conversations about expectations, goals, building life together, enhancing life together, that they have shied away from because they haven't believed anyone would have that conversation with them fairly and honestly. So you will show them that's exactly what you want with them.
Life would have been so much better with a manual. Just saying.
Well, this is the manual. That's what this podcast, that's what I wish you knew is about, is building a manual for life of every part of your life. That's why we're doing this. You know that.
That is the intention.
That is the intention.
Everybody listen.
That's right. That's right. Every episode.
Every episode.
But building that is so crucial. So if there's couples at home right now who are afraid, who are unclear, who don't know.
Yeah, you know what? Let's really hammer this point home.
Sure.
Okay? So many people are in situations where they started a relationship the wrong way. In fact, I really don't know anybody who hasn't worked with Adam who is able to start a relationship the right way because, well, it's a lot of information.
That's a heck of a thing. The only people I know in good marriages or relationships have worked with Adam. That's a heck of a testimonial.
I will repeat this as a client, and I will repeat this as as your friend. It's true that the only people I know have actually had a good start to the relationship, like skipping all the drama and all the pain and everything else, are people who understand attachment. Since we have the only attachment specialist, then I'm quite confident giving that recommendation. However, right, I can also say that it is never too late to even fix a relationship. So do you tell us how you fix a relationship that started maybe not in the right way? Like there has to be a way.
I've had one couple come in. They had 25 years of marriage. They had raised kids together. She was ready to walk out the door. Years of resentment. Their sex life was, well, the Sahara Desert? It was about like that.
Yeah.
Right? It was once a year.
Oh.
And neither one of them was having the conversations that needed to be had. They were afraid to really open that can of worms and have the talk because both of them were afraid it would lead to divorce. So they just lived quietly and silently in misery, trying not to get divorced. That's an awful way to live.
There's nothing more permanent than the temporary.
It's horrifying. So they came in and I said, look, guys, do both of you want to stay married? And they looked at each other like they were afraid to answer.
You go first.
And they both said, yeah. And I said, are you willing to do the work it will take to stay married? And they said, well, as long as they're willing to do it. And I said, well, yeah, that's mandatory. You both have to be on this to make it work. And they said, okay. So I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. And we built a completely new contract for the marriage of what it would look like. And like, it should have this in it, this element of physical affection, conversations, prioritize this, work together like this. Not a legal contract, but a loving contract.
Okay, how much do your sessions cost? How much does it cost to fix your marriage?
The investment for me right now, $840 an hour is the investment to build a good
And how
marriage.
many sessions are we typically talking about?
My marriage rescue package is 8 sessions.
Okay.
And it comes with a discount on top of
Oh, that's nice. So, okay, if I don't have a couple of $1,000 to drop on coaching, which to be honest, like I did, and it was so worthwhile.
Sure. Well, it's
so worthwhile.
Saves you $100,000 in fighting over your kids.
It saved me a lot of money. But, let's say that somebody doesn't have that. They are not in a position. They're not convinced. Short of crafting a perfectly organized marriage contract, what are kind of the first steps you can do to even try having a pivot to your relationship? Like, what do you do?
Sit down and talk to the other person and say, if we could be better together, would you want that?
If we could be better together, would you want that? What does it even mean?
If we could have more sex, if we could be happier as a couple, if we could fight less, if we could have more peace in our home, if we could enjoy each other's presence, if we could feel better in our day-to-day interactions, if we could pass each other in the hall and be happy to hug each other instead of passing each other and not make eye contact. Yeah. If you could meet in the kitchen and hug and maybe slap each other's butt. Slap the butt. Yeah. The marriages where you slap each other on the butt and the other person smiles. If we could build a marriage where we smile at things together like that.
I have a question. It's completely out of left field.
Yeah.
My daughter, Ellie, she's 6.5. She slaps me on the butt all the time. And she just started like 3 months ago. And I don't feel like it's bad behavior. She's like cackling as she does it. Why?
It's fun.
What the hell?
It's fun to, in a non-sexual sense even, it's fun to touch each other. We get oxytocin. We get serotonin. We are supposed to have fun with each other.
Come here, Adam.
It's all the brain count. Yeah, no, that's why I'm sitting. I'm sitting so you can't. No, there is so much brain chemistry around touching each other in non-sexual ways, and that's missing with a lot of avoidant men. They don't understand even the joy of non-sexual touch. That's why they go to the sexual or nothing at all. So sexless marriages, usually have at least one avoidant partner in them. Fixing marriage is usually about fixing the avoidant person as well so that they can enjoy it and build that intimacy together.
Well, there was a point in life where in the middle of a work dispute, I did...
Slap your partner on the butt?
No, I actually slapped my business partner on the butt with a cutting board because he was being a dick.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that really resolved a lot of things.
Did you both laugh?
We did. It was really weird. There was a point in my life where I was just like, I am so done with this craziness that this is like the easiest thing. And I kind of like resolved a lot of things.
You know what's sadly missing for a lot of avoidant couples or a couple where one
a cutting
is
board on the butt?
Those moments where you're able to just have a spontaneous connection with the other person and authentically laugh about it, especially as the relationship goes on, because maintaining that joy, maintaining the laughter and that connection and maintaining the fun is not something that avoidant people are biologically geared to do. When you're trying to survive lone wolf style in the forest, you don't think about fun.
No, you don't. You try not. The fun is not getting eaten or eating someone.
So now you're in a family or a couple where there is no fun.
Yeah, that's true. Fun is very important. Fun is very, very important. So basically you're saying you can start a conversation
Would
with
you like
somebody.
to have more fun together as a couple and have more sex together and be happier and have a peaceful home? Yes. The person's probably going to say yes.
And then what?
They're going to feel like it's a trap. They're going to say yes.
What do you want? How much?
And you say, okay, I think that I have figured out where we are going wrong in our communication or our expectations. I would like to make everything easier to understand, have some easy expectations for you to get what you need, tell the avoidant person, for you to get what you need, that is fair, and everything's on the table so that nobody feels trapped and nobody feels like it's unfair.
Is it hard to have those conversations if you don't start that way?
It can be extremely hard because the avoidant person, even having that's mandatory for them, but they're still going to be suspicious. They're going to wonder, why are you telling me you're going to be fair? Or does that mean you're going to be unfair? So you have to slowly show them how each step is going to be fair to them so they feel comfortable. As you do that, it disarms that fear response. So when I said before, make him feel safe, I don't mean you have to like hug him and make him feel like the bears won't attack him. You make him feel safe as an entity entering this situation where you're not going to spring the trap on him and then stab him in the neck and with the syringe. You have to say, I will be fair to you and let me demonstrate that fairness so that his guard can start to come down and he can actually have an authentic relationship with you.
How long does it take to fix a relationship with that broken attachment?
I've seen people try to do it on their own and it can take years. I have seen people try to build it with courses and materials like that. It accelerates it, certainly. When you have a trained professional right there assisting you, sometimes a couple of sessions. I had one couple come in. They, again, 19 years of marriage, grown-up kids, edge of divorce. She had flipped around where now she was yelling at him and they couldn't have a decent conversation. All his avoidant fears were coming true. And I stepped in and said, look, you are starving her emotionally and you are making his worst fears come true. Can we come to a system where both people will actually want to have fun and love each other?
Both of you stop it.
Both of you stop it. And here's what you're going to do to get her needs met and meet her needs. But here's how you're going to be fair to him so you're not attacking him while he's caring for you. And let's see what it feels like for the two of you when you actually love each other and have fun and are fair. And it was incredible. In a matter of 4 sessions, half of our marriage coaching package together, they went from fighting and screaming to actually pretty happy together. And what was cool was that was just the base level foundation. From there, the next 4 sessions turned into how can we have more fun than we've ever had? How can we actually find new ways to enhance our life together? What can we build next? Right? It was that process of I fixed the basic repairs on my home, but now what can I make my home look better? How can I make my home beautiful?
Yeah, the dream building's kind of nice.
That was incredible. And that only comes after fixing the problems first. So a few sessions, even a few sessions can make a world of difference.
Pretty solid. So where can people find these sessions of yours, and where can they find all these resources that they can use to learn how to not keep the misery going?
So I am Adam Lane Smith, the attachment specialist, no doubt. You're going to find me on adamlanesmith.com, my website, where I have all of my coaching packages, including the marriage rescue package, which I can help you with there. If you're a woman wanting to fix her own anxious attachment right now, I have the Attachment Bootcamp video course that will walk you through exactly how to go from that anxious feeling where you're clinging at him and you know that you are and you don't like it, but you're insecure every day. You can fix that and no longer be afraid, no longer be insecure, and you won't drive him away anymore. The Attachment Bootcamp course is on there as well. Andrey, where can people find you?
I'm at Andrey Korikov on most platforms. And if you want to learn more about what I do with content creators and also follow for more relationship and more content pertaining to how to build relationships in the digital age, you can find me at veritascreative.media and also all over social media. Adam, this was such a fun conversation. Turns out I have issues. I want more free sessions.
We'll trade.
Sounds good.
We'll take care of each other.
Sounds good.
There's that male friendship.
Tit for tat. I like it.
There we go.
Cool conversation. Lots of interesting findings. I understand more now in terms of how this avoidant, anxious dance goes. I could see the patterns that are consistent with much of these conversations happening on your social media. I think a lot of people are in this space. I think we need to have more conversations. So for those who are listening, please leave your comments below. I mean, I'll jump in and I'll give you my experience as, who am I again? Avoidant something? What's my diagnosis, Adam?
Probably the blend of the two, to be honest with you.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, brother. Recovering, hopefully?
Recovering. Very much recovering.
Okay, recovering.
Very much recovering.
As a recovering, avoidant, attachment, anxious...
Disorganized.
Screw you. As a recovering, anxious, avoidant, attachment man, disorganized, then... I'll be happy to share some experiences and, respond to some comments.
If you'd like to hear more about Avoidant Men, please drop a comment below. Let us know. If you just want to hear part 2, comment part 2. Let us know if you have questions about avoidance or Avoidant Men, or if you're a woman who loves an avoidant man. Let us know. I'd love to hear from you so that we
We're not so bad.
So that we can talk about exactly what you need and what you're looking for to make your relationship wonderful.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining us for I Wish You Knew. And see you on the next one.